Hey everyone, welcome back to Navigate. My name is Quincy Thompson, and I serve as the college pastor here at Thomas Road Baptist Church in Lynchburg, Virginia. Today we are joined by Pastor Luis Nodal, who is our adult ministries pastor. Luis, welcome. So glad that you're here.
We're glad. Thank you, Quincy. We're glad to be here.
Yeah, and you're here with your wife, Jennifer. And Luis, tell us a little bit about what you do here at Thomas Road.
So, thank you, Quincy. I get the opportunity just to, shepherd the adults and, lead over men's, women's, YPL, and senior life. And it's just a privilege and an honor awesome. Just to be able to be part of that team. So,
yeah, awesome. Yeah. I used to be a part of that team, and you guys have a great time.
Yeah,
you know how to party. Man, I did. I went over to Next Gen for college ministry, but... No, you guys are awesome and do so many awesome things for our church, and getting people in community, as we know, is so important. Mm-hmm. And you're here with your wife, Jennifer. Mm-hmm. And Jennifer, you work at Liberty University here in Lynchburg, and so tell us a little about what you do there.
Yeah, so I work over at Liberty and been over at the Office of Residence Life for almost a year, and Director of Programs and Student Leadership, so working with RDs and RAs and making sure they're learning how to lead well and making sure our students are doing well on campus.
Well, that's great. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you guys on, because you're so already well invested in the lives of our students, and especially, to talk about this important topic that I think is a topic for a lot of students, dating and marriage. Mm-hmm. It's so important, and what I love on top of that is how you guys have even gone above and beyond and opened your own home to a lot of our students. Our life groups at Ascent are always in a home of a family, and you're one of those families for us at Ascent. And talk about how, has that been, hopefully that's been good, right?
Yeah, so...
it's been great. Yeah, we were on our second group. Last year we had a small church at our house.
Like 40 people.
Which motivated us to buy a bigger house, so that's been great, and we loved them. And this year it's been unique because it's all guys, so... Yeah,
we laughed about it because, we had about 40 people last year, and we went from a townhouse to a house, so we're like, we got to buy a bigger house to get, house all these students. But we have the privilege now to host about 12 guys, and it's been great. Just to have that fellowship with them, and a lot of times I don't say much. I just listen to what God's doing in their lives, and then get to slowly insert some knowledge in there. So.
And feed them.
Yeah, and definitely. Feed
they
them.
Appreciate the food.
Yeah.
Hey, if you're gonna meet in my house, we're gonna eat.
Yeah,
we have plenty of food.
That's good. Well, thank you guys for what you do there. I just want to jump right into this. Today we're talking about dating and marriage. And I'd like to first start with how you two met. You both went to Liberty back in the day, and you two met each other, but the circumstances of how you met were a little bit unique. I'll let one of you share that story.
Well,
can we just
Luis always tells the edited version of the story, and then I fill in with the truth. So you want to?
So I was dating her best friend, and at the time we dated for a couple of months. And but in that time, I got to know Jennifer. I got to know her heart, and she is a pretty strong woman. But got to see how passionate she was for the Lord. Things didn't work out with her best friend, and we happened to go on a mission trip together. And that's kind of how the romance started. How the relationship kind of started. But she'll probably share a different story. But it was definitely awkward after we had finished the semester. We came back the following semester, so we had to tell our friends, hey, I'm not dating so and so. I'm dating Jennifer now. So I don't want to say her name just in case. But
no, it's fine. You're pretty accurate. So I think. He got dumped by my best friend.
Oh, there it is. There's the truth.
But I was there to console him and speak a little bit of truth in his life.
Yeah.
Man.
But that's where we continued developing a friendship, and we had started doing some ministry together as a friend group, and then the mission trip. But my best friend, who we are still best friends with, she married the guy that I had a crush on. So we just laugh about it and say we did the big switcheroo. And we say also, if we had married each other's spouses, we would have all killed each other by now. So God knew.
So God knew, for sure.
Well, a unique story. A unique story indeed. So let's talk about, a question that a lot of our students have is, how do I know when I'm ready to date? At what point do I need to have a certain thing, like a couple of things down for me to be able to be ready to date? How do I know that I'm ready to pursue that girl or that guy? How did you know? How did you know that, I'm at a place where I feel like I can start dating, I can start pursuing a girl, share about that.
Yeah, for me, I didn't date a lot in high school. So when I got to college, I didn't feel like I was ready yet. It was later on in my junior, senior year that I felt like I was spiritually prepared to take those next steps. I think one of the things sometimes that students don't realize is, they have so much baggage and they have not, surrendered it to the Lord, or they've not, gotten help for whatever that situation may be. So being spiritually prepared is crucial to knowing, okay, I'm ready to bring somebody else in into my life. So I would recommend, how are you doing spiritually before you bring any other person into it, because that person is going to bring baggage into their into the relationship, good or bad, and we want to make sure that you're equally yoked when it comes to your relationship. So that's a big one for me. I think another one is I think of family. I think of as you're looking of who to date, who's that, how does that person's family connect to you? Because I tell a lot of times you're not only marrying that person, but you're marrying their family.
Yeah, that's true.
And a lot of times, there's things in the family that you might say, hey, I don't know if I can fit in this family, but
yeah, for me, I didn't date much in high school as well, and like any good Christian, came in with my plan, telling God what I wanted to happen with my life, because I thought I was in control. And my sophomore year, before I even met Luis as a friend, I always say I was a very different person sophomore year to spring, where we just met as friends, and then the whole story happened. But for me, it was just a lot of getting in that season of like self-pity and like being really frustrated and, wanting to take those next steps as far as finding someone special. And it was just really a personal journey of no longer crying about a situation that really was in God's control. And so it was just kind of releasing that, and it was a really, a moment that I just very intentional of leaving for Christmas break and saying, like, this is no longer something I'm going to, like, cry about and be frustrated about. And it was just a releasing control, and I think it released my emotions and probably, just helped me to be somebody that he would even want to be friends with. And so God knew the timing of it. So.
And I think, because we're at Liberty in the Liberty bubble, there is a lot of pressure. Hey, ring by spring. You want, but yeah, don't put that pressure on you. If God has somebody for you here, great. If not, He knows the plans. For your life. Yeah. So don't. Sometimes we put so much pressure. Oh man, I've got to have somebody before I graduate. So
yeah.
And what would you say, a lot of people disagree on the purpose of dating.
Yeah.
Some treat it really casually. Hey, we're just talking. We're just hanging out. And then some treat it very seriously. Like, no, if I'm dating someone, this is someone who I see myself marrying. What would you recommend a good mindset to have when people are dating in college? Should they have the mindset of, hey, it's okay to talk to a couple girls, a couple guys, we're hanging out in groups, or is it like, no, this is serious. Like, you need to be prepared for the person you're dating. This should be someone you should be seriously considering marrying.
Yeah, I think I've probably evolved over time with that, and now that our daughter's getting a little bit older and our son's behind, I'm not sure where I'll land on this. I grew up very much like you date for your mate, and and so I think there's a lot of wisdom to that, and I agree in many ways. I think it puts a lot of pressure on as well. so that's where I'm probably even still trying to toss it through. I think I still lean on the side of whatever you call it, whether you call it a date or not, emotions are always attached to it. And so even if it's just simply going out for coffee, we can't underestimate the emotions that will be attached to it. And so for the guy and for the girl. And so I think at the end of the day, maybe who cares what label you put on it, there's going to be impact, there's going to be emotion, there's going to be possible temptation that can come through it, and time that you're investing in it, even a friendship, and so there's always a price to pay. Even if it's a good price, there's always a price that you put into that time of your life. So
I lean towards, is this someone that you're going to marry? Because once you enter that and you get engaged, I see couples, engaged for 5 years or 4 years, and I'm like, man, that's a long time to be engaged, because it's temptation. You should know, hey, this is the person, and because there's going to be a lot of temptation there. So focusing on, hey, who's that one now. You can talk to different girls, and in group settings, those are great. But once you've said, hey, this is a girl, it could be tough.
Find balance. You open the door to other things. So it's hard to kind of cross back over it, whether emotionally or, like I said, the physical or unmet expectations. One person seeing it differently than the other. So.
Well, I love y'all's perspective, because you've been through it. You're seeing it happen with students in your home and the students that you work with, and you're now even seeing it through your own kids. You guys have, 2 kids that are teenagers, and so you're now seeing that. And so what a wealth of wisdom and experience you guys have to speak into the topic. Let's say, for example, I'm a guy and I muster up enough courage to ask that girl on a date, and we're now beginning to date. What is one thing that you would say to guys and girls to be careful of while they're dating? One of the things that I think we see a lot of now today, especially in a very Christian environment, and we have students from University of Lynchburg and Randolph and these other places, there's a tendency to kind of play this kind of mini marriage, like we're going to play house, I'm going to provide for you, I'm going to protect you, and vice versa. Would you say there are some dangers to that, with like you're dating, but you're almost playing this sort of mini fake marriage that doesn't really exist? What are some words of warning or cautions that you would give while you're dating?
Yeah. I mean, I think it hits on a lot of areas, but I think it puts, it can put an unmet expectation of something that's not real. And so kind of playing that scenario out, or even getting too close to each other and developing codependency, which naturally happens to some level, but it can also cross over to that unhealthiness, and so I think it's just, I don't know if there's like a black and white answer to it, but it's just you have to be so careful. I think too, it probably goes back to that other question of why are you even together? And then if it is for the purpose of marriage, then are you working towards that? But yet still maintaining your individuality, still maintaining your walk with God, still maintaining other relationships that can speak truth and value into your life. And then, of course, it can tie, the temptation side and purity and just the impact that it played in our marriage. And was, we probably did find ourselves in that role. And then we thought once the wedding day happens, all sins and impacts are washed away. But it almost, that's when the impacts started happening, and the consequences of kind of not dealing with some things or maintaining healthy physical, emotional boundaries even before marriage.
Setting boundaries is crucial, because you're entering a relationship where you're eventually, if you're going to get married, you're going to get intimate. But if you enter it too soon, it could be dangerous. So trying to set some boundaries is huge for us. I mean, we're pretty candid about some of our. But yeah, that we did some things that, man, we wish we wouldn't have done. And sometimes I share that with students and say, hey, try to set boundaries so that you don't have to later on, have to suffer for them. And they're like, oh no, it's going to be great. And then, but marriage, just because you get married, things don't just, magically everything is great. And all sins are forgiven. So learning how to have some boundaries
Yeah, because it's so tied in. It's the emotional boundaries get crossed, and it reads it confusing, and then you feel like you have to cross physical boundaries to meet a need that we feel like, society plays out that you have to meet, which we all have, but in God's timing, of course. But it, as much as it's the physical part, it's the emotional part and the confusion, the expectations, things like that I think carry on. Past that.
Ultimately, the relationship with you and God needs to be the number one. My relationship with God needs to be stronger, because if my relationship with God is good, then I can love my wife, I can love, my spouse,
dating,
or dating, whoever I'm dating, a lot stronger. And then because I love God, I'm going to respect her, I'm going to honor her. So it's not, how strong is our relationship, but how strong is our relationship with the Lord. So.
Yeah. One of the, I think, great people on this topic is Ben Stewart. He wrote that book, Single Dating, Engaged and Married, and just navigating all through those relationships. I highly recommend you read that book if you haven't already. But one of the things that he hits on is, I think he worked with college students a lot, and he would tell his guys who would come to him who would say, hey, how do I lead my girlfriend? And he would always kind of come back to him and say, like, you don't have, like, you're not supposed to lead her. The only men leading her in her life, or should be leading her in her life, are her father and her pastor. You're not in that equation. You're to treat her as a sister. So encourage her. Make sure you protect her from any temptations. And so I think that's really crucial, especially setting those boundaries from the guy's side, at least. And I think that's so important.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, and it changes as a father now. It changes because I tell my daughter, man, I want her to date when she's 35. But you as you grow older, you get different perspective and understand, the consequences of a young man not setting boundaries for that, and same thing vice versa. For a young lady to set boundaries so that she doesn't fall into those temptations.
Right. So let's talk about dating, and how did you know that Jennifer was the one? And Jennifer, how did you know that Luis was the one? Was there some cosmic magical moment that was just like,
the angels came down,
right? It just
fireworks.
We had a choir in the background,
right?
Yeah.
No, for me it was her heart. I got to see her, just as a friend, and got to see how much she loved people, how much she loved the Lord. So it was a beautiful thing to see her in her own environment. She wasn't trying to impress me or impress anybody. And the passion that she had for the Lord, the desire. She was serving in ministry in different capacities here in Thomas Road. In Lynchburg. So it was great to see that, and that's kind of what I fell in love with. And then when we went on a mission trip, that was kind of the culmination of, wow, this is a young lady that I would like to marry. And I think going back to the family, the other thing that I loved about Jennifer was that her family was in ministry. I knew that I was going to be in ministry, and I wanted to marry someone that understood that lifestyle, understood the sacrifice that it took to be a pastor, to be a pastor's wife. So that was for me what kind of I fell in love with her, and her beauty, of course.
I think similar, just friendship. I do promote like being friends first. I just think you get to know someone. And then, I think just being called to ministry as well was important, and just having kindness and respect. Luis had a lot of friends that were girls, but it was such in a sisterly way, in a brother way, and just he treated them with respect, and so that was just spoke for him, and being being proud to be with somebody like that for sure. And then just, of course, being, handsome and being fun to be around.
He was on the football team, so right?
No, I was on the track team, not the football team.
Oh, you're on the track team. All right.
He did.
And some of you guys are probably thinking, man, this guy is really fat. But, I just threw the hammer in the shot put, so I wasn't a runner. But no, a testament, as we talked about that I dated her best friend, we never were physical. So I thank God for that because, it would have been an awkward or it would have been a different relationship.
Probably wouldn't have happened.
So
they never kissed or anything.
Sometimes, we think, why do we have to wait? Why do we? But man, just respecting, somebody else, because I think it's something special,
right?
To hold on to. I shared it recently with some of the Liberty students that come to my house, and I said, to me, the covenant of marriage is kind of like Christmas when you were little, you would go down and man, you were so excited to just open those gifts and see what beautiful gifts you got and how cool and this and that. As you got older, you kind of knew what were you going to get, so it wasn't as exciting,
right?
And that's saving yourself for marriage is that man, when I go down and to see that Christmas tree, man, I want to be so excited to be able to open that gift that God's given us. So
Well, let's talk about that real briefly to wrap up with marriage. You said, hey, hold off on the physical, hold on the physical intimacy, because that's going to come. If this is someone that you do want to marry, that will come. And so it's so much more important to hold that off and to work on, hey, do I enjoy hanging out with this person? Is this someone I could see the rest of my life spending with? And you mentioned early on that marriage, I think we have this very idealistic view of marriage, especially when it comes to Christians marrying one another, that, it's going to be great. And we hear, it'll be difficult, it'll be challenging, but I have someone special. We know each other, right? So explain that. What were some surprises early on? Like, oh wow, I did not realize this. No one told me this when we got married, or coached us this way before we got married.
Well, this is where we are experts. Perfect, right? All our we can tell you what not to do. We've always said we never wanted to do marriage counseling because we were the storybook of we've learned hopefully from our mistakes and are still learning, which maybe still surprises me. Like, gosh, shouldn't it get easier? But it has its moments of being easier, and we don't fight certain battles that we used to. Beginning of our marriage, we were so bad about the wanting up. Like, well, I had a long day. Well, I had a longer day. I had this, and it was just like so immature, but we did that a lot in marriage. Cultural issues started playing a factor, and honestly carry over from some unhealthy ways that we dated a year and were engaged a year. So that's 2 years of some good times, but a lot of mistakes that we brought into a marriage. So it played a factor for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of things. I mean, from finances to, dealing with that was for a period of time in our life. That was a big one. Yeah, and how do you manage that? Spending and all that. To family. Christmas is coming, Thanksgiving is coming. How do you deal with different families? I come from Hispanic culture. Jennifer, Caucasian. So how do you deal with those different things? My family talks loud. They're not mad. They just talk loud. She was like, what's going on? So all those play a part. But I want to just say that we've been to marriage counseling. Like, it's okay to get help. It's okay. To say, hey, I don't have it all figured out. I need someone to come alongside of me. Don't ever think that you're alone, because that's when we start seeing divorce, families separating. There's always hope for your marriage. So
it takes work.
Yep.
Yeah.
Dating takes work. Yeah, and it doesn't stop when you get engaged, and doesn't stop when you get married.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of coming alongside. For us as older couples, we're next week here. We'll leave to a marriage conference, and we just want to spend some time with an older couple that's been there, that's has gone through some of the journeys that we're not, or teenage years, like how do we deal with teenagers. So those are all part of growing in our marriage.
Well, that's so good, and I think you can take that anywhere, and that's why community is so important.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think you can carry that, hey, don't be afraid to reach out for help when you're married, but also don't be afraid to reach out for some mentorship and guidance while you're dating. If I'm dating someone, reach out to someone who's older, a couple who's far older than you are, and just kind of be around them, hang out with them, ask to go to dinner with them, observe what they're doing, ask them questions. That's the beauty of the body of Christ, I think, and it's the beauty of going to an intergenerational church like Thomas Road. We have a Ascent College ministry, but right across the hallway, well, a little bit more than across the hallway, but down the other side of the building, there's so many great couples like yourselves who do have that experience and can come alongside couples who are dating, engaged, or even young couples that are married. And so that's such a great reminder to always be a student, essentially. Always learn and observe and ask questions, and don't feel like you have this special case where you have that special someone you haven't figured out, and because in that regard, I think you can run into a lot of trouble.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Any final thoughts?
No, I just think that, I think going back real quick of what surprised me, and maybe not a surprise, but what I have learned about Luis with almost 18 years of marriage is that the men need men. And that's maybe something I didn't always recognize in my family situation. I maybe didn't see my dad model that, and not in a bad way, just times have changed and more awareness maybe, but that men need men. And so I think just recognizing that, and that that's so important. And so to start that now as a young college student, especially for a male, that the world tells you no, don't open up, don't share burdens and struggles with, and especially with pornography and the issues with that. But men need that. So if you can start that at a young age, and it's just part of your lifestyle, a woman will be so attracted to that, because it just shows that they're working on themselves and they have a good resources, but also it's just going to help you're going to be a healthier person, a healthier spouse one day, and it's so important.
Yeah, your relationship with the Lord needs to be a top priority, I would say. So even before you're dating, how's your relationship with Him and spending time with Him? Because you're setting the standard. You're modeling what you're going to be doing in the future. And if you're not spending time with God, when you get in a marriage relationship or in a dating relationship, there's a lot more things that are going to involve, and you're going to forget about what's the most important thing.
But I want to say with dating, with that, like Luis during our time of dating was really close with God, and I was really close with God, and we still fell hard and often. And so I always say, like, I fell in temptation with a really godly man. And so it can happen, and not to have to be caught off guard, and to not be caught off guard is having these conversations before you're in that situation and you don't know how to handle it. So it's so important. That's
good. Wow.
It's good wisdom.
Yeah, that's right. Well, thank you all so much. Obviously dating and marriage is such an extensive topic to cover in, 30 minutes. But we will definitely talk about it again in this podcast. But thank you so much for sharing just your story. And again, thank you so much for just the model and example you are for so many of our students at Ascent, the guys you have coming into your home, and the dozens of other couples here at Thomas Road. So thank you guys so much for your ministry and all that you mean to us.
All right.
Thank you.
Quincy.
No problem.